Hey everybody, Custom Mix here. We are in Alta Loma, California. Gave myself a little bike ride today. We are in Jim St. Pierre's backyard. He has a garage, and he's got a garage in the back. And I'm helping him a little bit today with his journey on the 40 Chevy that we see in the back right there. And I'm going to help him line up a few things, make sure the front end goes together the way he wants to. If anybody's looking to, this thing will come up for sale soon. Pretty cool little car. He's done a ton of stuff to it. So if you're interested, contact Jim St. Pierre. Hello Valerie. Hello Todd. How are we doing today? And yes, this will be a journey through Jim St. Pierre's heaven and hell when it comes to street rotting and building and rebuilding and reconfiguring and making it better and improving and also from his perspective carrying on the legacy on this car. Many times we are just the caretakers and the curators of somebody else, this awesome stuff. Hello, Curitiba, Brazil. Hey, Ellen, Anita, how are you? Norway in the house. Jim has been working on this car for how long, Jim? This is Jim, by the way. Jim
Hi,
St.
everybody.
Pierre. Damn it, Jim.
Damn it, Jim. I have been on this particular project on this car since January of 20.
January of 20. And what did it start with?
Well, it started simple enough. The body mounts were rotted away, so the doors weren't shutting right. It was cracking the firewall, things like that, 80-year-old body mounts. And so I decided that it was time to do the body mounts. I had a conference with Mike here and figured out the best way to do it. And to do all the body mounts, you have to strip all the sheet metal off the front end and the rear end. You have to pull up the carpeting inside, and you have to take up the trunk in the back. So I did all of that, changed the body mounts, got everything lined up, and got it all back together, and was backing it out from under my lift here. The Mustang was on the top, and the coupe was underneath, and the lift had settled a little bit. So I'm backing out, and I hear this wonderful two nice racing stripes over the top of the coupe. Where it hit the back of the lift ramps. Were down just enough. Didn't dent it, but it scratched it.
Just took a couple right across it, huh?
Right down to the metal. And like I said, it wasn't far enough to dent it, but it was far enough to scratch it. So I had to have the cab painted, and to do that without tape lines and everything, that meant that the car had to come completely apart again. But in addition to that, the doors had to come off. The interior had to come completely out. All the glass came out, all the chrome, everything you see. It was just a shell on a chassis. And I figured, well, it's this far apart. I'm going to go ahead and put a new engine, new transmission in it because the old one had 80,000 miles, and I had a brand new Bullet sitting in the garage. So I changed the engine out, and then got a little crazy with Sparkly, which I'm going to regret later because I'll have to clean it every time I drive it. But
the shiny stuff.
The shiny stuff,
That's part of our hell, isn't it?
That is. And so spruced it up that way and decided, well, the air conditioning in there this car was built in 1992. So the air conditioning was old, so I put a new vintage air in it. Decided to add cruise control. Let's see. I'm trying to remember some of the stuff I did to it while it was apart. I added, I wanted a backup camera, because as I get older, it's hard to back up straight. So, and
our priorities is a little bit different now than we're a little bit older.
So, with the high back seats, I couldn't see as well. So I put a backup camera, and then my wife talked me into putting Apple Play in it. So that's all in. Added electric cutouts to it. Changed the stereo system out. It wasn't powerful enough before. And so we got to have, more power.
More power.
And
He did hold the front suspension and brakes and this,
Yep.
that, and the other stuff too, right?
Yep, did
It's an avalanche. And
Avalanche.
keep in mind, this was a finished, driving, beautiful hot rod
Yeah.
that most people would go, "Damn it, Jim, what the hell are you doing?"
Not most. All. Anybody with sanity said, "What the hell is wrong with you?"
Yeah, damn it, Jim, what are you doing? I mean, this car, I have so many memories in this car. How long have you owned it?
I've owned this since 2007.
2007. You got it.
This
The guy
was-
that built it.
Yeah,
You
but
want
this was built by my best friend Dan Osborne, and Danny built the car. He always wanted a 40 Chevy, and he built it he started it in 90 and finished it in 92. What you're looking at here on the fenders and everything is original paint, original flames that was on the car. Danny died from pancreatic cancer in '04.
Sorry, Jim.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
Yeah.
And when he died, he willed the car to his son. His son had no interest in the car, really. His son was more into boats and things like that, and he put it under a cover in the garage. And then one day he called me and says, "Jim, you want Dad's car?" And I jumped at the opportunity. And so this car looks, for all the work I've just done, this car looks exactly the same as it did when I took it apart.
Yeah. And
Nobody
that's
will
what
ever
most
know I
people
touched
don't
it.
understand, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's been on the road for how long since then?
Since I got it?
Yeah.
Since '07.
'07. And how many miles do you...
I've put on about 50-some thousand miles since then.
50,000 miles. And yeah, on a hot rod, that's
That's a lot of miles.
it's a lot of miles. And it was time for a refresher.
Right.
And then during the refresher, it got a little bit less fresh.
Yeah.
And we found a lot of things that needed to be fixed, and some of them structural.
Right. Right. We had some structure issues.
You know, and then as you open it up, more and more things that maybe weren't even addressed by your friend.
No.
It showed their wear. I mean, it is an 80-year-old car.
Right. Right.
And so, you know, a lot of things had to be done. And how many times has this interior been out since you had it in?
Oh my gosh, a couple, 3 times.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing about this interior, while it's totally different, people who see this car and come up and say, "Oh, is that Danny's car?" don't realize that the interior's even been changed, because it's the exact same color as the interior that was in it when I got the car. The dash is exactly the same. You can't see it right now. It's on the floor down there by the mic. But I purposely stayed with this color, but I wanted to update it was a tweed type of a material, and so I wanted to update it, and so so I did all of that, but I kept that theme exactly as it was.
Yeah. And I mean, the reality is that you're honoring the heritage of the car and the way it was built, because this is very much a timeless rod.
Right.
In many ways.
Right.
Yes, many people could say, you know, it is dated because of this, that, and the other. But to me, this is more timeless than a lot of 90s street rods type of deal, where you can peg the era. You know, this one has a lot more old stuff to it.
It's a very traditional street rod.
Yeah.
The traditional flames, the traditional mags. It doesn't have big hoops on it.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know, one thing about these wheels, these are Anson true knockoff wheels. You won't see a lug nut in there. What you'll see is the guides to slide it onto the hub, and those are true knockoffs. Anson sold to American, and they only made a few sets of these.
Yeah.
And they're really hard to come by. And so most people, if they look at this, they realize that something is different about the wheels, you know. And but I'll show you this over here too.
Okay.
This was Danny's original street rod porn. And so I always thought that was funny. Yeah. And that's not a decal, that's painted on. And I got rear-ended about a year after I got the car on the freeway. A guy tapped me in the back end and crushed the rear end. And, of course, destroyed this.
Yeah.
So I had a picture of it, of course. You know, all of us take a lot of pictures of our cars. And I took it out to little Louie, and he duplicated it perfectly. You can't even tell that it was changed.
So little Louie did it, huh?
Little Louie did that.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is to watch people at car shows when they see it. They either laugh or go, "Oh, that's just disgusting."
Just, damn it, Jim.
Damn it, Jim.
Damn it, Jim. So, who did the interior for? Because it looks really nice.
Rawls down in Ontario.
Rawls in Ontario.
I've used Raleigh for 30 plus years on my cars. I've always been happy with him.
Yeah.
He's always done a great job for me at a really nice, reasonable price. And he does a lot of street rods. Well, I shouldn't just say street rods. He does all genres of cars.
Yeah.
So.
And he stands behind his stuff pretty good, too.
And he does. You have any kind of trouble. Now, I've got it all tore up right now after we get this front end buckled up. With some help from the master here to get everything to line up. Now it's going to get on the trailer and go to Rawl. I'm going to leave the doors off. And it's going to go to Rawl and have him put the carpet back down. I need him to make me a couple of things on the console and, that kind of stuff I'm going to have him do.
Yeah.
This car isn't, when it's all together, it's going to look nice, I hope.
Yes.
But really what we've put this car together to do is drive to New York. Redone the suspension to do that. The engine is just a super reliable crate 350, automatic overdrive, 200 R4 transmission. It's built to drive.
Yeah.
And I want it to look nice as well. But this isn't going to be a Riddler contender or that kind of thing. This is a car to enjoy, and my wife and I enjoy it. We have drink holders in the console to put our drinks while we're driving.
Yep.
And if we drive through McDonald's, we'll eat a hamburger in it too.
Yep. It's a real car, driven by real people, built by real people, using real components. We don't have to. I mean, even you're using just a standard 350.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No extra massive thrills, but functionality.
Right.
And yeah, there's some minor flaws in the paint here and there.
Sure.
But that's like, then it doesn't hurt so much when you get a rock chip or whatever,
right.
Or you do something stupid like open the door into something or back out from under the lift.
Or back under a lift.
But it happens. But it's like, even I know where those chairs are coming from, where the seats are coming from.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
These are actually pretty nifty seats. They're 8-way power. They got power lumbar. They got an adjustable bolster.
Yeah, this is really cool. You don't see this in cars anymore.
Yeah.
You can pull that out to rest your legs on while you're driving long distance, especially if you're on cruise control.
Yeah. And does yours have the adjustable side bolsters
Yep,
too?
it has that.
So the side bolsters move in and out, and it's got the airbag thingy for your lumbar.
For your lumbar, and then it's 6-way power up, down, sideways. That's what all of these buttons are for.
Yeah.
And then in the console, there's 2 more buttons, and that's for the seat heaters.
Oh, you put seat heaters in it too.
Seat heaters in it too.
That's what happens when you get less than young. You search for some of the features that makes it a little bit more travel. But I mean, I bought 3 sets of these seats. Mm-hmm. They're out of mid-90s Explorers.
Eddie Bauer edition.
Eddie Bauer
right.
edition. And you can get them at Pick and Pull. I think I paid $35 a piece.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of them, if you go there often, some of them are, you might not even need to reupholster. I have 2 really nice ones. Yeah. Yeah. They're not leather, but that I'm going to put probably eventually in the Mini Merc.
Yeah, because they'll fit right in. And it's always your option when you have them reupholstered. You can trim this down. I liked it because, again, this is a road car.
Yes.
It gives us a little more protection. The only thing I couldn't do in this car that I really wanted to do is I wanted to anchor a shoulder up here. And there's just no way to do it on this car. But that gives you a little bit more security if you're driving the car all over the place. Yeah. And I can remember driving this car around before I did the interior. I took the bench seat out. And I had T-shirts over these seats from the junkyard, making sure, because I think we went through 3 or 4 pair, but making sure that they was comfortable and fit us before we spent the money to reupholster them. So anyway, this is a little bit pre-video, just giving you a little bit of history in this car. And Jim's done a great job. He did everything I asked him to do. This car was, typical 1940 Chevy, Pontiac, all of them. They kind of get stressed out here at the firewall because they lose the body mounts. And there's like 2 of them right about in here that controls how the doors are lined up, kind of like a Model A and a 32 does when they're adjusted by the cowl. And he did all the repairs, put all new bushings and all that stuff in it. And now it's time to align the front end.
and which can be a staggering thing if you don't readily think three-dimensionally. So that's what we're going to do today. He got everything on that needs to go on, and then I'm going to help him with the alignment and stuff, and then he'll finish everything off himself once it's in the right place. But so we'll get back to you on that after we've been. I got to teach him some Swedish swear words too, because he ran out of the American ones yesterday.
I ran out on yesterday. And one other thing on the doors. This is something Mike taught me. And remember, this car was all together before I hit the lift, and that's when I did the body mounts. Is that first time. So I had the doors all nice and lined up, and when I lined them up, this chrome strip now runs straight through. There's no sag down here. Of course, this is a little off because when they painted the flames on, the body mounts were worn a little bit. But I got it all lined up, and Mike says, go drive that thing. He says, because things are going to settle. So any of you that are going to do body mounts, I took this out. It had no front end on it, and but it had the radiator and everything. And I drove it around Altaloma here for, I don't know, half hour or so. Brought it back up, threw it up on the four post here, and sure enough, those doors had settled.
Yeah.
And so I had to get back under here, and I think I used 1 or 2 shims on each side, little shims just to bring it up. And then I drove it again, and I kept doing that till it didn't settle anymore. Yeah. And those doors, you can take them up like this and just push them with your thumb, and they close and latch. They're dead on. That's one of the things that a lot of people miss, and even I see it at Grand National. Even finished cars that are on display for the show, the doors are sagging on them already, because they didn't preload the doors and or drive until right before the show. And I understand sometimes you just run out of time. You're thrashing right to the end, But if you have the patience to do it that way, or knowing that they're going to drop somewhere between a quarter or more or less, you can preload the doors high and allow them to settle into the place that they need to go, which is another way of doing it. But setting the doors perfect and then start driving it is going to cost you trouble every time. So. And by the time you discover it, you have it all back together, and you won't be able to reach the darn bolts because they're down under the floor in here. Yep. Now you've got your carpet all back in and everything, and those are caps I have to put back down on my floor. But all right, so we'll get back to you a little bit later today when we have the front end back together and give you a short video there. And I want to say thank you to everybody that hung out for our little video show of Jim's private heaven and hell. And then I'm hoping to see this. Actually, let me rephrase. I'm hoping to ride shotgun in this a few times this summer. So. All right. Thanks for hanging at Custom Mics. See ya.